With pressure mounting from allies overseas and protesters here at home, Congress is being pulled to the front line of this fight now. And joining us is Congressman Adam Smith, the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, a senior voice on foreign policy as well. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thanks, Joyce. It's
really
good to be
appreciate
here.
it. There's so much to cover.
Yes, there is.
I want to start with Greenland.
Sure.
And just your assessment, what is President Trump attempting to do here?
Well, he's attempting to add Greenland to the United States of America. He wants the territory, and that is crazy. There is no national security reason for doing that. And I think what deceives some people is Greenland is important from a national security standpoint. Its location close to the North Pole, close to the Arctic, you know, the ability, we have a space base up there. It's very important, but we also have complete access to it. Greenland is part of NATO. It is part of our alliance. This idea that China and Russia could take it unless the U.S. was there to protect it. The U.S. is there to protect it. That's what NATO is. We also have a treaty with them that allows us to have as many military bases as we want on Greenland. We have one. I've visited it. We used to have more. So there's no necessity of this. But Trump is allowing his own ego to get in the way of what's best for the United States of America and what's best for global security.
He is saying that this is about national security. What do you say to that argument?
Well, what I just said is that...
We already have it.
Right, we already have it. There's no national security reason. Now, I mean, I guess if Greenland was looking to sign up with China or Russia, maybe we would have some concern, but they're not. They're signed up with Denmark. They have an agreement, basically. Greenland runs their own affairs with support from Denmark, and if they want to be independent, they could vote to be independent, but they don't. Denmark has really good health care, just as one example. So we can meet our national security needs, but the steps Trump is taking are jeopardizing the NATO alliance, which is so important to protecting our security. Denmark was one of the first places to support us in Afghanistan, to support us in Iraq, to support us everywhere.
And a leading NATO nation as
right.
well.
Yeah, you detonate all of that, you break up the alliance, and for what? Because again, there's nothing to be gained here except being able to say, well, I guess it's like, well, we call it the Gulf of America now, so we feel better about ourselves.
This threat of these retaliatory tariffs on 8 European nations, the impact on NATO, what is that immediately? And then on our relationships with all of our allies across the globe?
Yeah, it jeopardizes the alliance. Now, how will the European nations respond to this? I don't know. They're going to want to try to keep the alliance together, but it places it under stress and runs the risk that it will go away eventually. And then also the tariffs are just a terrible idea. You're seeing the impact already on our economy. We've lost more manufacturing jobs this year than we have in a very long time. Prices are up on food, on housing, on energy. Those tariffs are having a devastating impact on our economy. We're adding virtually no jobs. I think we added pretty much close to, 0 jobs for the year. It's devastating our economy, and now Trump is using these tariffs again, so it's going to hurt the economy. And it also shows that he's not using the tariffs to advance an economic agenda. He's using the tariffs so that he can bully other nations, whether it's India, because India didn't, I guess, give him credit for stopping a brief fight between them and Pakistan, or Brazil because they didn't support Bolsonaro. He's using the tariffs to coerce other countries primarily for his own personal agenda and harming our economy while he does it.
So what is Congress going to do about this? We're supposed to have 3 equal branches of government. Right. That's just one branch. What are the other 2 branches going to do? Let's talk about Congress.
Well, we're supposed to be first, as a matter of fact, Article 1, and we're supposed to exercise oversight. And what we could do is we could get rid of all those tariffs. We could pass a law saying, no, you can't do tariffs in all these different countries. We could pass a law to rein in ICE, by the way, which desperately needs to be done. Trump has turned that into his own domestic paramilitary force with no rules, no attention to due process or the Constitution. We could do all of that, but the Republicans in Congress, who have a majority of the votes, are letting Trump do whatever he wants unchecked. Now, we're pushing, and we've had a couple of successes. We did pass an extension of the ACA tax credits out of the House. We Democrats forced that to the floor with the discharge petition.
It hasn't gone anywhere yet in the Senate. The president still has to sign it. But
I understand. What I'm saying is, there have been a couple of isolated incidents when Republicans have decided that they do represent their constituents and not Donald Trump, but they're small. And as you point out, if the House just does it, well, that's not enough. If the Senate just does it, The Senate repealed some of the tariffs. We didn't act in the House. So we have to put pressure on the Republicans in Congress, as we have done, to make changes in these specific policies that are hurting our country so much.
I wanted to, before we let you go, talk about what's going on in Minneapolis. Do you see an intersection here between what we're seeing in Greenland and executive power, his use of executive power in Minnesota and Minneapolis with the National Guard, an expansion of that?
100%.
In what ways?
The through line on all of this is Trump wants power. And he wants to diminish the power of any check and balance. Congress, the courts, the media, law firms, whatever it is, he's trying to consolidate power so basically he can do whatever he wants whenever he wants. He wants to take Greenland. He wants to knock out the president of Venezuela to get access to the oil. He wants Panama. Whatever it is, he wants to have the power at the expense of everybody else. And now he's got these ICE agents running around the country acting like the law and the Constitution doesn't apply to them. They killed a woman who in no way, shape, manner, or form was any threat to them, and then said, well, we have absolute immunity. They're storming into houses without warrants, without probable cause, grabbing citizens, all right, and people who have a right to be here. Again, no probable cause, no due process. What Trump wants is he wants the power to be able to do that. He does not want to be constrained by the law or the courts. And it's really a very stark choice. Do we live in a constitutional republic? Or are now we living in an autocratic dictatorship? Trump was elected to be the democratic leader of a constitutional republic. He's trying to get rid of all of that so that he can be an autocrat. And however you feel about, I don't know, taxes or identity politics or jobs or whatever, you can be very conservative. You can be a Republican. You can think Democrats are terrible. And okay, you still shouldn't be for this. You shouldn't be for a federal government that says, no, we can walk down the street, and if we don't like the way you're looking at us, we can throw you to the ground, toss you in a car, and lock you up for as long as we want. You shouldn't be for that.
Some would argue that the president is already doing whatever he wants unconstrained. And the Supreme Court gave him immunity while he's in office. So what are you hearing from your colleagues on both sides of the aisle about where we find ourselves right now?
Yeah, I'm one of those people who would argue. In fact, I've said on more than one occasion that we no longer live in a constitutional republic right now, given how the courts have refused to rein him in, given how the Republicans in Congress have refused to join us in our efforts to do that. I think people are starting to get worried about it, even some Republicans. And I will say the last 4 or 5 days have had a profound impact. What happened with the killing of Renee Good, what has happened with what they're doing in Minneapolis, what's happened with Trump, and you didn't even get into the fact that Trump said that part of the reason that he thinks he should have Greenland is because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize from Norway. So he's threatening Norway. Norway doesn't actually award the Nobel Peace Prize, by the way.
Right.
But what kind of world are we living in when the President of the United States is threatening to break up the NATO alliance and invade a sovereign country because his feelings were hurt about not getting a Nobel Peace Prize? I think that got people's attention, as did what happened in Minneapolis. And also, this is under the radar, but okay, we were going to change everything in Venezuela. You know, it wasn't, we were going to stop the drugs and do all of that. So they took Maduro out. And now Trump is perfectly fine with Maduro's regime. We've stopped hitting...
Which is the same. It's the same regime under the vice president.
And all he got was basically the new regime under Delcy Rodriguez, the former vice president, is they're paying him protection money, basically. They're giving some of their oil to the U.S. and giving Trump a cut. And
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. I mean, now, Marco Rubio...
What evidence do you have of that the president's getting a cut?
Well, sorry.
Yeah. Can you clarify?
There's no evidence that he's directly getting a cut. At the moment, the money is apparently coming into the U.S. Treasury. Okay, so let's be clear about that. But we did a regime change operation, blew up all those boats in Venezuela just so we could have access to Venezuela's oil. Mm-hmm. Even if this does benefit the U.S. a little bit, that should not be our foreign policy. We should not be the mafia boss of the world that's going to use our military to threaten another government. This was supposed to be about democracy in Venezuela, about stopping the drugs coming in. It wasn't. It turned out that it's just about the oil. Now, if Marco Rubio was here, he'd be screaming his head off. And I'm sure that Secretary Rubio doesn't want this, but he's letting it happen because it's what Trump wants.
Congressman, we are out of time. we just don't have the time that we need to cover everything that we'd like to cover. And we do want you all to know that we are efforting on a regular basis the Republican point of view on all of these issues, which we will continue to do day in and day out. Thank you so much for being with us, for explaining this as much as we can, and we'd love to have you back whenever you're free.
Anytime. Thanks for the chance.